Danny, is your last name
Good afternoon and welcome to the Underbelly Podcast, brought to you by Clarity Financial as we peek underneath, poke around, and expose where other outlets don't want you to know about finance, economics, politics, and pretty much everything. I'm Brent Clanton. In the studio with me this afternoon, Richard Rosso, CFP, Danny Ratliff, CFP, and our very special guest is Mary Jo Rapini, and we're going to get into some interesting discussions with her in the next few minutes. Hope you can watch us on Facebook or live stream, and we'd love to hear back from you. Feel free to comment as well. Richard, we had a busy, interesting week on Wall Street, so why don't we get the numbers out of the way, and then we'll hit the top story that everyone is talking about this afternoon.
Well, I mean, what's interesting, again, is that levels of the market that were resistance are now support. So we sit on the S&P 500, we sit on the 100-day moving average, and we sort of stick around there. We're up today a little bit, about 14 points on the Dow, but we had a really nice move off the 200-day as we move forward, right, Danny? But now it looks like, you know, and what we did here is we put half positions in thinking, well, let's see where markets go. And we seem to be sitting literally right on that 100-day moving average, waiting to see what occurs. And obviously the big move in bonds this week, or the 10-year, right, reaching levels I guess we haven't seen in what, how many years? 6 years?
Man,
7
no.
years? Or how long am I how long am I going?
It's been over 10 years, because in 2014 we saw it touch 3.
Yeah, 3. I'm thinking of 2014.
Yeah.
But
to
so
get
we're
up to
talking-
the highest, 3.1, that's a long time. That's a pretty big run there. So the momentum trade on that could carry, but we're seeing it drop a little bit. Trade tensions are certainly weighing, and it looks like the dollar's playing a big role in all this.
The key of this week and the key of every week, even though it's been allayed a little bit, is volatility. And we've seen that, but it was nice to see us go from that 200-day to that 100-day. And who knows? Summer's coming. Hope it's not the doldrums. So hopefully we close positive for the week. S&P is relatively flat, and we'll take it from there. Keep in again, those subscribers tomorrow, Lance's newsletter. By 11, 12 o'clock, you got it in your mailbox. Read it through. Give you an idea of what we're thinking.
And one of the biggest things I think for any readers is go all the way down to the bottom. Look at the 401k update. Look at the portfolio update. Gives everybody an idea as far as what we do throughout the week, what we're looking at moving forward. I know a lot of people can be the charts can be a little bit overwhelming.
They get a little overwhelmed. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that the main thing, everything's important, but the very bottom is going to be where it's very easy to understand.
Last thing about this, if you go to realinvestmentadvice.com, Lance does a great job. We scour the internet for all the great stuff on finance, all the articles. There's a lot of reading on there, but we've listed the best of what we found, including the best of Real Investment Advice of the Week.
So the top story this afternoon, it's one that's been emerging this morning since early, and that's in Santa Fe, Texas. For those of you who don't know the geography, that's between Houston and Galveston. We've had a school shooting, and depending upon how you count, some sources say that's the 22nd such school shooting. I don't agree with that assessment because it includes accidental stuff. It's not an accurate number, but one is more than what you need to have.
Absolutely.
So we want to talk a little bit about that. What we do know is there are at least 8 fatalities, mostly students. There have been 6 injured. They're being treated at area hospitals, including the UTMB and the Houston Medical Center. The alleged shooter and an additional person of interest are or were students at Santa Fe High School, and both of them have been detained. So they're in custody. The shooter reportedly used a shotgun, not an assault weapon, and the shooter was interrupted when his gun either jammed or expended its ammo. A police officer was able to intervene. He was injured. And at least two explosive devices have also been discovered, one on campus, one off campus. As we're taping this at 19 past the hour in the afternoon, certainly by the time you review this podcast later in the day or the weekend, the story will have become more clear. So we're not going to try to speculate beyond that. But it's a horrible day, and we ask for your prayers for the city of Santa Fe and the students at Santa Fe High School. And Richard, why don't you fill us in a little bit on our special guest, and we're going to ask her to comment on this for us too as well.
Well, Mary Jo Rapini is a well-known therapist. I mean, she is, when it comes to relationships and marriage and other things that make me blush, Mary Jo can do it. And she's on Fox, and she's national, and she's everywhere. And again, I think she puts these topics into terms which you feel comfortable hearing. They're practical. And I think for this new age of turmoil, especially in relationships, but not only relationships with others, when you see a shooting like this, relationships with ourselves are not as healthy anymore.
Right.
I think there was a study out a few weeks ago that talked about how younger people are more lonelier than they've been in a very long time. I can't remember the study.
Right, yeah.
And it's sad to see this.
It is
and hear
so
about it.
true. And I look at a story like today's, and I see so much of that. I mean, these kids are lonely. They're not only lonely for other friends, they're lonely for a family connection.
They're lost,
I mean,
right? They're
just
lost.
totally, and you wouldn't believe that, because social media-wise, many times they have lots of friends. They're very engaged, very funny, but they go home to an empty place. And
So it's like a
basically-
family unit structure, something underneath. Because I know it's always about gun control.
Right.
And I understand that because we want to get this fixed.
Right.
But there's got to be something underneath this if you dig, right? The underbelly, as we call it, of this is more, right?
Right.
It's-
Absolutely.
It's a symptom of a bigger problem, isn't it?
It is a symptom of, and I think where I'm seeing it is the detachment of the family. I mean, I
So
know
explain
there's
that, what
lots
that
of
means. What do you-
well,
what-
there's lots of broken homes, but being a divorced couple has nothing to do with a detached child. I mean, when a child is detached from their parents and they no longer feel necessary, they no longer feel like their purpose is important to the running of the family, which is happening because parents' focus now is on making more money to have the things they want. And they'll even tell the child, listen, if you want to keep playing those computer games, then we have to both work. But the child's just left. Like, where are they accountable? Who are they supposed to show up for? Where are they? They lie to their parents. They're on social media. There's no accountability, and people will even throw up their hands in my office and say, "Mary Jo, can you do something with them?" No, I can't.
But isn't it all kind of come full circle, even with the social media? If you go out to dinner these days, in the detachment, you can look because everybody's on their phone, parents included.
Exactly.
So it used to be where you had conversations where, as a child, you would probably know somewhat of the inner workings of the family, what was going on. And now I don't think there's any of that responsibility to the family unit by anyone.
No, and I mean,
it's a lack of engagement.
There is.
I see it. I mean,
moms and dads aren't engaged. I mean, nobody talks anymore. They would much, and you'll even see couples who, when one of them goes to the bathroom, they're so addicted, they'll take the phone out and start, scrolling through their feed to make sure they haven't missed anything while their partner is absent.
Well, it's just something to do while you're sitting there.
Well, people are so terrified to just have downtime, but that downtime feeds a relationship. You need that.
You do. It's crazy. Even with my wife and I, we have a difficult time just because with 3 small children, the communication aspect is so important. Last night, we actually had a couple minutes and I said, well, you want to turn on a show? She's like, no, let's just sit here and talk.
I love
See,
that.
that's great. Yeah,
I love that.
And that's what it goes down. I mean, my wife and ex-wife and I get along great. We have always been engaged with Haley.
Right.
She calls me. We talk about all kinds of things. She texts me. But we communicate. She feels wanted. She feels that we're concerned. She knows that we're engaged.
Exactly.
That's the word. We're engaged.
Well, and even though you're not necessarily a unit, you're still a cohesive unit when it comes to her.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important.
And she even mentioned that, that the mom and dad are a unified front when it comes. She feels that, which is important.
You should never get a divorce with somebody you can't talk with, which is why I really think you should go to a mediator before you go to a lawyer, or a lawyer who specializes in. I have a hard time with divorce anyway. I'm a marriage advocate, but at the same time, some couples do need to divorce. Do not divorce if you can't sit down and talk together. That's a bad sign.
I think our relationship is better now.
Well, and I think that happens. Many times when couples come in and they're very angry, I'll tell them you should not get divorced right now. You still have anger. Anger is still a sign that there's some emotional investment. It's when they're indifferent, when they just don't care, there's an apathy. Okay. No therapist can fix apathy.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
But a lot of times, do you think that it stems from other issues and not necessarily just the partners involved or the family unit? It's stemming from somewhere else and it's brought into the house?
Well, I think social media is a lot of it. These kids, when you're lost and you're depressed and you feel like a nothing, you want notoriety. You want to be noticed.
Everybody does.
Yes, and even if it's something bad, remember, kids aren't thinking. They don't have an attached frontal, cortex. So they don't understand. If I shoot these people, I'm never going to be the same. They think they're going to die. They're going to go up in a big flame of glory. How do you stop something like that? The best thing, I think, is to be aware. If we somehow can be aware of those, not only for teachers, but for other parents, for anyone in that child's life, if you can see that kid is a loner, they're detached, they really don't have anything, if you can get underneath that mask, we may be able to see progress.
Again, I'm no expert, but you don't think that it's always amazing to me that signs say of what happened here, of a student who does this, there aren't signs out there that there's something not right.
Oh, I absolutely think there's signs. I think we're missing it. I think we're afraid to say something. There's a TV show, What Would You Do, where they present something really crazy, and then they see if people will stop, will stop that person. Yes.
I've seen those where they'll actually have somebody at a bar and they'll put something in a woman's drink, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, look what I'm doing." And then a lot of times these other men will turn their heads, which is despicable.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Some people are so afraid. They'll say, "I don't want to get involved," and I think that's a real truth in our society. Nobody
it's a shame
wants.
when parents don't, though.
Yes.
That's a whole other story.
Yes. Well, I have parents coming in, Richard, and they throw up their hands. They have no idea what to do with this kid who calls them curse names, and the child's sitting there. It's amazing to me that people can raise a child and as they go through their growing up, you don't see those signs and say, okay, we're going to stop this.
Well, kids see respect is earned. Even kids have to respect their parents. And I just know that coming from where I grew up.
Where in the child's development does that begin? Because I'm hearing what you're saying.
Exactly.
And this doesn't happen overnight to a high school student who goes into an art class and pulls out a shotgun. That didn't happen overnight.
No, this was premeditated, clearly.
Right.
But at what point did somebody not make a good decision, a good call in raising this young man?
It was probably all the way along, Brent. And I've had classes with forensic psychologists, and they admit and say loudly, by the age of 6, you can already see these signs. And people who push it under the rugs, I hear kids who basically aren't doing their homework. They're tricking the teacher. They're saying things like, I didn't want to. Okay, that should be brought up to the parents. If I had a child who didn't do their homework because they told the teacher I didn't want to, that kid would never forget that day. Nor would the teacher, nor would I.
Right.
Because there would be a severe disciplining intervention, and that child would live with that new intervention. I would hold them accountable.
Well, and let me branch off on that, if I may, gentlemen. Severe disciplinary intervention. We get so freaked out now because we think someone's going to call CPS on us if we spank our kids in a grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
How do you discipline a kid at the age of 3, 4, and 5 that's effective without landing yourself in jail?
Right. There's a lot of people who say, I was spanked and I think my child should be spanked.
I was spanked.
And spanking is their first mode, but as a psychologist, I can tell you is my last mode, because you don't need to. Some kids, you do. Some kids do not hear. At the age of 2, though, you remove the child. You don't need to spank them. When they're a baby, They cry.
No.
That's a normal
2 years old is
developmental
too young.
milestone.
Right.
2, remove them. At 3, you remove them and distract them. You don't need to spank them. You can do timeout.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, you have to sit in there with them a minute per their age. If they're 3, you're going to sit in there for a minute. You're going to play the quiet game. When they come out of the quiet game, you're going to talk and you're going to say, next time this happens, this is what you're going to do.
A minute per their age.
A minute per their age in timeout. If they don't stay in there, then a parent must be diligent and take them back.
Yeah.
Timeout is the very best thing to do because it isolates them, and they hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I was spanked for breathing.
Yeah, well,
But I
I've
never
seen-
spanked. We've never spanked Haley, and we always did other things, and she listened.
Yep.
But when I went to school, and I'm in a Facebook group with my old public school, and we talk about all the teachers and
Yeah.
they're the ones we didn't like, and
Right.
but all the teachers we revered them. We
Yes.
loved them. We respected them.
Kids
it-
love discipline.
They were tough on us, but we were scared of them. But they loved us, and they took care. Like there are teachers today. I don't think I would be here today if it weren't for some of the teachers I had in elementary school.
Amen.
And I don't
Yeah.
think teachers today have the ability to have the bandwidth to talk to parents because parents get offended, or the school district says no, we can't go there, and then I think they're almost becoming surrogate parents to some degree for
It's
kids, and that was never the case even when I was growing up.
Yeah, discipline seems to be a liability now, right?
Yeah, it
Right.
seems like that causes
Yeah.
more issues. If you even say, "Hey, something's wrong here."
Well, and each child's
And
so
you're-
different. If you think about it, with even going back to my younger children, my middle one, he'll wait me out on timeout. He's so stubborn. He'd be like, "Yeah, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
okay."
Bring
But
it.
we've read a lot of books, and so each child has what they call a love language,
Right,
right? And
right.
I noticed that if we spend time with them and do things alone, and that it makes a significant difference on a day-to-day, a week-to-week, and month-to-month basis.
Yes.
And every now and again, if they get out of whack, we'll be like, "Oh, okay, what have we not done recently? Okay, we need to do daddy-daughter date night, or we need to go do something."
That's great.
And that's
I think
attention.
those are, that's what
that's
they
engagement,
thrive
right?
on.
Yeah.
And you want to make it during positive times.
Oh, yeah.
And you never want to overdo. Like I see so many parents calling their child princess, princess. That is the worst thing to do to your child. Don't do that to them. For goodness sakes, treat them like a child. You know, that like they're learning. And just remember, just because it doesn't work one day, they're developing too. And the next day, the discipline may work better or more. They're learning. Their brains
Yeah.
are grasping.
And you don't have to tell a child that they're perfect every minute. Like when Haley
No,
was,
you should
we would tell
not.
Haley all the time, "Listen, you're not perfect.
Right.
When none of us are." And we
Right.
would humble her consistently. Not tell her she's pretty, but that's only goes so far. In other words, we never said no matter what she did, she was perfect.
Well,
Look
got
at
to
their
learn from
effort.
their mistakes,
That way.
right?
Yes.
And that's one
yes.
thing we talk
Let
about
them
frequently.
Fail.
Yes, let them fail.
Exactly.
Because
Let
that's
them
how they learn.
fail. It's so important. Everybody's hovering around. Oh, did that hurt your feelings? Did that hurt your feelings? Kids should have hurt feelings sometimes. It's okay. Let them figure it out so that they know how to be resilient and how to deal with stress.
That's right.
Exactly.
You need to learn those.
Yeah.
It's so important. And, kids are looking at parents. How do parents deal with stress? They overeat, they overdrink, they smoke. I mean, who is teaching these kids when you get depressed or stressed? These are healthy things. Go for a walk, talk to friends, call someone. Nobody calls anybody anymore. Even if you're going out on a date, when people come in, they show me their text. I mean, what? Can this guy talk on the phone? What is wrong
I
with
know
him?
this is not a dictatorship, but if I was Trump, you know what I'd say? 6 months, I want every social media outlet to close down.
Wow.
I want it black.
That'd be
For
great.
6 months.
It would be fantastic.
Man, I just can see so many
It was like
things.
the purge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want it
Yeah.
black for 6 months, and let's all re-engage with our families.
Well, it's
Oh,
interesting.
wow. That would be fantastic. He has
and
to start,
Facebook
though.
and LinkedIn and all that,
Yeah.
shut down.
He has
Yeah.
to start.
He
though.
has to
No
start.
tweet.
Oh, yeah.
No tweet,
Oh, my God.
President
What am I
Trump.
saying?
Yeah.
Totally wrong person.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I agree with
Where
that,
did that come
Richard.
from?
The pressure's off.
Well, but if you talk to anybody, I speak to old teachers who are in high school, and I'm on advisory committees for universities, and essentially they'll tell you the biggest problem is that these kids know how to communicate with social media, but nowhere else. They don't know how to have a face-to-face conversation. They don't know the written word. Those are so many things that's difficult for a lot of people to overcome, and especially when you get into an environment where you have to speak.
Exactly. Well, Danny, parents don't know how to talk to their kids. If you said, okay, kids at the table, no more iPads, no more electronics, and you say to each other, and we're not going to either, right? And you both agree, yes, all right. You're just going to sit there like, what do you? And you know what parents say? How was your day? Don't say that to your kids. They don't know what to respond. It's too big.
I saw a list of questions that were suggested that parents ask their kids
Yes.
when they come in. It's like, so who did you sit with at lunch today?
Yep.
Who did
That's a
you
good one.
help today?
I love
How did you
that.
make so-and-so smile today? Not questions that require a yes-no answer. Did you have... Are you this or not? It's questions that require a response, a thoughtful response of how and why and when and
Right.
what. Those kinds of questions, and they trigger the kids' minds to activate.
Right. I always used to ask my kids, what went wrong and what did you learn from
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Because right away, and then I would go first. Because I think when parents model for their kids, listen, I try too, and I fail at some things. It opens the kids to understanding that when we talk about our failures, we're learning. In fact, I go to happy hours with people. All I want to hear about is their failures. I don't want to hear them bragging about their day and what they
Mary
did.
Jo turns it into an unhappy hour.
Yeah, I want it unhappy.
Let's go to unhappy hour, everybody.
It turns into more fun because when you talk about where you failed, you love them more.
It's Mary
It's
Jo
like you
confessional.
did.
And they're drinking
yeah,
more.
I love that.
They're drinking
it works
more.
For me. Yeah.
Uber's for everyone.
Yeah, Uber.
Yeah, Uber's for everyone. I know. That's
Well,
a good way
I
to
feel
go out.
better.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because I talked to a really good friend this morning, and we were talking. He's going through an interview process, and he said, "Man, I had a really good thing going with this company, and I found out I wasn't going to be brought in for an interview, but I talked to the guy, and he kind of strung him along a little bit, and." He said, I really want to reach out and figure out what went wrong. And even when we talk to clients, if somebody chooses to go with another advisor, I want to know, hey, what can I do better? What do we need to tweak? Is there something that we did that just put you off? Or what was it? Because I'm always trying to improve and learn. And I think that as a society, we don't embrace that enough or encourage that often enough.
We're
because-
dangling participles. We're not full circles. That's what I call it. In other words, we never close circles. Like if somebody doesn't want to communicate with you anymore, I would rather somebody say, you know what, I really would rather not communicate with you anymore.
Right,
As opposed to
exactly.
just disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look
And
what
that
we...
seems to be the case.
Right.
And I think there's something really wrong with
And
that.
that's part of that disconnectedness that we've been talking about. If you never follow up, if you never answer, hey, what did I do wrong? How can I do better? That's a shirking of our responsibility.
Well,
Exactly.
There's
Exactly.
Lots
so
of
much
shirking.
divide, right?
Right.
Nobody's taught how to debate intelligently or cordially and have a conversation where you can disagree. And I love to talk to other people with different ideas and thoughts because hopefully I can take something from that, right? And they can take something from me. We usually meet in the middle. And at the end of the day, we can go have a beer and everything's good. But so many people, if you have a difference of opinion, you can't have a conversation. They don't want to be in the same room with you.
Yeah,
Well-
they stop being friends. They'll unfriend you. And the other thing I was going to say is when kids are looking on their social media, they're looking for people who scored. They're looking for happy faces, people who have the best girl, people who have the best boyfriend.
but then they feel like crap because then they don't have it.
And there's so many research articles out about depression and anxiety and social media, and parents are totally clueless. I mean, the child can have about 5 different accounts for one thing. Parents aren't engaged, they're not around, they have no idea what's going on in that child's virtual world. The kid's virtual world is their world.
Yeah.
For
That's
these
scary.
kids that are scared, are a loner.
You know what? We'll never get Trump to make everybody go dark for 6 months. But what if instead of on our social media platforms, instead of posting all the happy stuff, all the stuff that never goes wrong, for a week, let's just post our mistakes.
Yeah.
Real
Let's
life.
just post our foul ups and see how that goes. And
Or photos of how we look in the morning.
Well, that's
or
good
and
and
photos,
scary.
That aren't
real
doctored,
photos,
yeah.
that aren't edited and put into a different.
for Mary Jo, she looks good
yeah
in the morning.
filter. I mean, no, I really look bad in the morning. Believe me,
Nah, I don't
will
believe
do
that.
it if somebody else will do it. Believe me, I don't want to go first on that
Hi,
one.
Facebook. Here are my man boobs.
Hey,
Richard, you would be great. I think you should do it.
Brent will do it before he combs his hair.
Yeah, I know. For guys, it's not as big of a deal, but for women, if you ever take a picture of a woman, you're gonna have to edit it at least 5 times, and then they'll be unhappy
Really?
with it.
I
Yes.
saw a photoshopping well, it's like a Photoshop.
Yeah.
It's a program.
Yes.
And they had a guy that looked like had a dad bod.
Like me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. But what they did was, all of a sudden you see 2 chest plates come in.
Really?
And they change his breast.
I got to get that.
And then they
What?
have the ab thing go in, and this guy transforms, and they gets up tan, and it's the same guy. They say, you need to buy this program because
wow.
they turn this dude into like
An Adonis.
Adonis.
Yeah.
So you imagine that's what he's posting, or he goes on a dating site and
That's for
that's
his-
what he's using.
that's for his
I mean,
Tinder
that's
photo.
more.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I don't
It's
either.
more misperception. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's
But see,
I-
they get that in their brain. It actually changes their brain chemistry. They start believing that's who they are, and it inflates their already huge ego that looks narcissistic. Although
what
that
did I
word
say
is
at this?
passed around.
Well, we did an event. It was
Yes.
really great. It was
Yeah.
to help single moms, younger women who needed help financially,
Right.
physically,
Yeah.
spiritually. And I got called on the carpet for they said, well, if you're looking to
You?
date a woman, you said they need a few things, and I said, well, if too many selfies, I don't want to date them.
Yep.
Really?
Too far into themselves.
Too much into
Yes,
themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I really think
so
that
selfies are a
is.
turnoff to me. Totally. I just it says a lot to me.
And they always want to take them on every date, every event, and then they go home and they edit them. They take them if it's not already in an
Yeah.
app that makes them perfect,
Oh, yeah.
and they're very picky
Well,
about
but
it.
what do you do when you actually meet somebody? We hired somebody years ago, Michelle and I did, to do some work for us, and we went to go visit with them for the first time and did not recognize them.
Really?
I believe it. I tell you, it
And
happens
this is years
all
ago.
the time.
Think of what they do now.
Yes.
I mean,
Think about if you were online dating. I mean, it is really scary. Richard, you're not, right?
I've
No.
tried it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
a lot of people try it. But
I'm not doing those Bumble Tinder
Yeah,
things, though. I don't
yeah,
like that.
that's good.
Not
I
doing
mean,
that.
I'm telling you, it is a new world out there.
I'm so glad I'm not in it.
I know.
so glad I'm married.
I know.
Oh, my
Me
gosh.
too. Amen.
That's not what he says when he's off the air.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
No,
he
Brent
does.
or
Yeah,
me?
he does. He does. Oh, he does.
We all do. We're all really happy.
Speak for
With
yourself.
that.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, you better watch
I've got
it,
3
buddy.
great dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
I love them.
You do, and they're really cute.
They are very cute.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I think that for a while they make a better partner.
They do it great.
Till you really get together what you want.
Except I don't think my partner would eat crap.
Yeah.
If one of them is doing that.
Depends. I'm vegan.
Oh,
I
okay,
eat
you
a
never
lot
know.
of junk.
You
I
never
do
know.
a lot of
I
grease.
guess there's all kinds of freaky fetishes going on.
Well,
Speaking of fetishes, we're going
yes.
to talk about sex and money and other things.
Let's
Yeah.
do that. Go ahead.
Oh, we're starting that.
No,
already?
you first.
Oh. So one of the things I always realized is always love, Danny and I, we love to meet with couples, right? We always want both parties to be engaged in the financial decisions. What I've noticed is the younger couples, they're both more engaged than, say, the older baby boomers. Like one is always handling it. The other parties, at least we insist, listen, you got to know who we are. Come in. If God forbid something happened to your partner. But there's always, even in younger couples, there's always one party that handles the investments and all that. But the other party does want to know.
Yes.
And be engaged. But I also noticed the couples who have built the most wealth over years, right? They come in, is even though one party stayed home or didn't have as great of a job and one had a super job, the synergy of them having similar money script or value has exponentially increased their wealth.
Absolutely.
Compared to the people that have this friction, right? One's a real big saver, one's a real big spender, and they can't align. And I can sort of tell, I think Danny probably can too, like who are not going to make it, even make their goals, their retirement planning goals. They're not going to hit these goals because they're not. It's not about how much they make. It's if they're on the same wavelength.
About how much
Right.
you save, right?
It's about
And-
saving.
yeah.
And do they want a big house or are they showy? Versus, no, we're going to save. And when they're both aligned, it's amazing. So when I sit with a couple and they have this alignment and one always says to the other, I'm so glad you did this. I'm so glad you saved this. Like the one who's not making as much will turn and say, and I say, listen, no. You're not giving yourself enough credit.
Right.
He or she couldn't have done it if you were misaligned. And they go, well, how do you know that? I said, well, just I do. And I said, my test is the appliance test.
Tell
I
you,
want to know when
fellas.
young couples go out and they buy, and by the way, talk about there's a behavioral hiccup called paradox of choice. Like the more choice you have, the more you walk in and the more you don't buy. When I was looking at washer and dryers with my daughter, I said, Haley, I don't know what to do. There's like rows and rows of washer dryers. I went for the cheapest one that would actually washes and dries my clothes. $500 versus $2,000.
Right.
And I said, hey, this would be great. And I started to ask couples. And when they are both aligned, believe it or not, like, oh, no, we just need functional. We don't want to spend bells and whistles. And I'd rather save the money as opposed to, no, I got to have the best. I've noticed that's where some of the friction starts. Those little things. I was wondering if you see just these little nuances. And you talked about financial stress.
Right.
But do you see what kind of, I'm trying to create everyday little nuances that show me the friction or the money friction in couples. And I didn't know what you notice about couples and money and how that gets thrown into the soup of emotions and other things.
Well, I don't know if this will help, but I have like a form that I give couples who are pre-marriage counseling, and basically it's a values form. The only thing that we've been able to ascertain about what keeps couples together and happy is that their values align. Okay, and so it has things like money, how much do we save, what do we think about living below our mean. It's these type of things, and it gets at the core of it. Like in my own marriage, my husband and I, before we ever got married, we talked about this, and we said, listen, I love travel, and we were really struggling to make it, and I said, I will be willing to do anything so I can travel. And he said, well, I don't care about traveling as much, but I like the fact that you want that because that would be something we could save for and budget for. He said, so I'm willing to live below my means. I feel more comfortable with
He's
that
such a super
to have
guy.
a big buffer. And I love that because I came from a poor family. I don't need the best house. I don't need the best car. I didn't want a ring. I didn't want an engagement ring or a wedding ring. I got one because I think it's important to him. But at the same time, I've never been into jewelry. I want to travel, and I want to travel well. I like going on exotic trips, and so we've been able to do that. And I think that I see that in couples. Their fights notoriously are about money. It's amazing. It is the number one. It's before sex. Anybody who tells me that sex is the most important thing in a marriage or a relationship, I'll be like, you're wrong.
It's money.
It's money. It's money, and it's how well you communicate, because money is power, and when you share money well, when you organize it well, you also have better communication and better sex. In fact, show me a couple that gets along well with money, and I'll show you a couple who is sexually active.
Ooh.
It is unbelievable. In fact, show me
hey,
someone.
baby, I've got a credit score of 850.
Well, no, anybody who, but
knew
that
that was
won't
coming.
matter.
Yeah.
That won't matter unless your partner is aligned with that.
That's right. But think about it. And my
Yes.
partner can go, so?
Yes.
Like,
Well-
I don't think credit score is a big deal.
Oh,
Because that's
man,
another thing
I
I got
would-
called out on this thing. It's like,
Yes.
I don't date a woman that has a bad credit score.
Well, you said it to someone probably that struggles with that. So people
No, but I
get very
remember what I said is
defensive about
it's
money.
how you improve.
Yes.
Like everybody, I said life gets in the way.
Yes.
That's how you handle that responsibility. Yes, I messed up. But here's what I'm doing to improve. That says a lot to me.
If you can't take care of it on your own, how are you going to do it with someone?
Right.
Exactly.
If you're just someone
exactly.
who's
and I think
irresponsible,
Right.
then that's not going to work.
And the fact that that person was offended or put off by that statement is a
I
clue
think it was
that
maybe how
we're not aligned.
I think it's
though.
how I phrased it because I said, "I'll show you mine if you show me yours."
Is
And
that
what I
what
meant
you
was my
said?
credit score.
Right. Yes. It could
Oh, I wonder how that could have been taken wrong.
Well, no, I think sometimes when it's like a therapist, when you hit when you say the truth, the couple is struggling with, they'll get defensive. Like everybody defends
Hits a
their
nerve, yeah.
ego when they feel called on the carpet. So if you say something, if someone is struggling financially, and then you say, listen, credit score is really important. I can tell a lot about a person's discipline by their credit score. They're going to get defensive if they don't have a great credit score. However, I will say that there's also an attitude of entitlement.
Yes.
And in my, I grew up dirt poor. I didn't see that as an insult. I saw it as I'm going to go out. I'm going to have to work harder than everybody else. I'm going to have to take on more jobs, going to have to pay for my education. Now people right away are, well, I didn't have the same luxury you did.
Yeah.
My parents didn't pay for my school. Big deal. I know a lot of people that finish college don't go deep in debt because they're willing to go to work after school and do those things.
Everybody wants to be rich, but nobody wants to work.
Exactly.
That drives me crazy.
They don't want to have more than one job. If they get fired from a job, they're like, I'm not taking that job. That's below me. Something else. If I needed money, I would take any job.
Well, I know people that sat out when we graduated college and said, I am worth at least $60,000 a year. I'm not taking a job. And they waited 2.5, 3 years to get their first job. Shoot, mine was like $20-something thousand, my first job.
Because you just got out there.
And I just said, I'm going to start grinding. And you start moving, and you do. And
You're in the. It's like almost like when you're merging into the main, like the lanes, right? When you're on the freeway, you got to get on.
Exactly.
So even
in our
if you're
profession,
making half of what you think you should be making, you'll work toward it. At least you have a work history that you're starting to build.
Well, and it gets back to the concept of a minimum wage. We'll talk about the minimum wage, and as Lance has told us many times, the minimum wage is zero. You
That's
are
right.
paid basically what you're worth. And so if you sit out for 2 years, not doing anything, as opposed to a guy
You're
who goes out and
depreciating.
gets a job for
Exactly.
$24,000 a year, your worth is going to increase just by virtue of the fact you've got the experience.
That's true.
I like
Well,
that.
and, one thing I think that we always try to intertwine in our business and what we do is the behavioral aspect. And I think we need it. We have an in-house counselor we need, see? But that's the biggest part of any of this thing. If you can do those things successfully, the whole financial thing will come together.
We've got a
at the
space
end of
for
the
you
day.
right over here.
I like what you said that, or I don't know if you said it, Richard or Danny, but you said if you want to make money, it's like merging onto a freeway. You got to get in. You got to get your foot in the door, take a smaller job. It's like that with marriage, too. If you want a good marriage, you have to commit. You have to get all the way in and shut the door
And it's
on
sacrifice,
an escape
right? You
plan.
have to be like
you
look
have
what Rhonda
to
he said to you.
sacrifice.
We're going to save because you want to go on your trips.
Right.
Even though he goes, I'm not interested.
Right.
He was interested in what you wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He
And
knew
that
what
says
I
a lot.
wanted, and
He's
he
such a good
thought
guy. Let's
he
see him
is
this
a
week. I
good
gotta see him this
guy.
month.
Yeah, I know. He is one of the best guys. But like anything else, you have to commit to a plan. And I like the idea in a marriage, in a relationship, for goodness sake, sit down, budget. Budget is not bad. You can have a glass of wine while you budget. You don't have to, you just have to align your values. Find out what you're saving for. Maybe you can plan a vacation, but first, let's make a buffer.
My
because
friend Brittany
bad
Castro,
things happen.
she's a certified financial planner. She's great. And she says, have a money date.
I love
Just have
that.
a money date every
yes.
week. And you start,
Yeah.
and I think even before you get married, to your point,
Yes.
you really have to expose your credit, your loans, your debts, and what you're doing, your intention to pay them off versus someone who's entitled. I'm not proud to say that I have caused some couples never to unite in that holy
Well,
matrimony.
you probably did him a favor.
Well, because,
Yeah, you
because
probably
I
did.
said because it was like too many. One was a credible saver, and the other one was more just he was a just big spender,
Yeah.
and his debts were enormous. And she says, and he wasn't he didn't seem like he was taking the initiative. He's making a lot of excuses. That's what she said to me. And she says, when we had this conversation in your office, I realized we had to postpone this.
Right. Well, many
So I was thinking,
mental.
you have to bring that up.
Right.
You have to talk about that stuff before you commit.
Well,
Many mental illnesses hide under extravagance, and you must remember that. Like, I'm thinking of one when you have cyclical depression, you will cycle and you will get manic during those times. And people during those times are huge spenders. They have no
like a drug.
accountability.
It makes them feel like
it's their
better.
vice.
It's
And
their vice.
many times if you have a food addict or you have a drug addict and they're getting off their substance, they will turn to shopping addictions and they'll spend just unbelievable amounts of money and actually put the couple in harm's way for debt. And I mean, basically, if you're married to that person, you're going to pay half of that. And it's important to remember that if they have a mental illness, maybe deal with that and, look at what it's showing you financially and deal with that. I think that's a lot of the cause of financial ruin in couples.
You've heard it said that marriage is a 50-50 proposition, and I disagree with that. Marriage is a 100% proposition because you have to be 100% committed in that other person, and they have to be 100% committed in you.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
It's
That's
part
true.
of shutting that door behind you. If you can't have old past debts, you can't have old past girlfriends, old past boyfriends that you still talk to. Both money and relationships are correlated in that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be smart financially, you need to be committed. You need to be committed to a financial plan.
But it's discipline, right? Just like it
it's
is in the marriage.
discipline.
It's discipline with finance. It's not immediate gratification. It's all about the longer term.
It's
And
sacrifice. And what you alluded to earlier, and nobody wants to sacrifice. It's having 3 kids and making a life together. You make sacrifices because what you
Danny
both
sacrificed
believe
his
in.
hairline.
I sacrificed a whole lot
No,
more than that.
but
Yeah.
you'll get the benefits are just so you can't compare it.
Well, that's right. It's just like, and even we had to make some decisions where does she continue to work or does she stay home? And that was a big sacrifice in the sense that at the end of the day, you figure you're on your deathbed. This is what I had to post her because she loved her job.
Yeah.
Right.
And said, what do you want? You want more money? Do you want to be known for what you did at work or do you want more time with your family?
Yeah.
Exactly. And people will say you can do it all. You can't
No.
do it all. I hear a lot of my couples saying, I just want it all. I want work balance. I'm sorry. That is an ideal, but it doesn't work because I see the kids that grow up in that, what they call work balance. And they might be able to get them through elementary school, but
The unfortunate part is financially, 80% of the population has not really participated in whatever the economic growth is since the Great Recession. You do need both to work.
Right.
That wasn't the case
yeah.
years ago. But you do, like Danny said, if both are not going to work, you're really going to make some form of big sacrifice to do it.
Right. Well,
And that says a lot. But today, you need those 2 incomes.
I think it depends. I've seen people who have gone minimally. I have a lot of couples.
Yeah, talk
who
about that.
If they're willing to reduce their spending, that means
Make those tough decisions, right?
stop cable. You
Yeah.
know, that's a big expense. Maybe
Downsize, maybe. I had a couple that did downsize to do this.
I mean, and then they'll say, but we have no room. Listen, you're going to be closer if the less room you have.
Get rid of the stuff.
get
We have
rid-
stuffitis.
I cannot take.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the more I really like to think I've become quite a minimalist. It's easy. It's just the 2 of us now. But the more I get rid of,
Don't you
the
feel
better
better?
I feel. Oh my gosh!
As couples get closer to retirement, they say it relieves stress.
Oh.
They go, just to not have so much stuff. It's almost like it weighs on them physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And I feel that way now.
Right.
Even at my age.
You
that
feel
I'm
relieved
like-
or you feel stressed?
No, as I get rid of stuff,
Yeah.
I'm like, my gosh, I don't need it. I don't need
I don't know where it
another
comes
thing.
from, though.
I-
we
well,
do it.
yeah.
We purge constantly, and it's
Right.
crazy. It's like, where does this
No,
stuff
it's
come
the
It's like
kids,
dust
Right.
bunnies.
toys, kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
Danny, I like that. We've always been purgers, but now I'm starting to see that basically more and more I'm just getting rid of it. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I'll ever retire because what I do is what I love, and I don't know. I think even if my husband does retire, he'll always be an author and
you'll always stay
writing.
active, and you have to.
Well,
You
I
have
think
to.
we'll always stay in the business
Yes.
world.
Well, don't stop talking.
Oh.
We still have a whole minute to go.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think we get a lot done in a minute. That's what Mary Jo says. You can accomplish a lot in a minute. And I
It
need
goes-
that. Well, how much can you accomplish in 30 seconds? No. Well, again, I just think it's been great to have you here
Well,
and your
thank you.
perspective on this.
Well, thank you.
I don't know what else of a topic we have going on.
Well, we just may have to have her back.
Yes, we absolutely.
Yeah.
We
That
do
would be a lot of fun. We can do a lot for couples and money and
Any last words of advice for folks that are struggling with the news of the day and the shooting in Santa Fe?
I think shut off the media and have a board game, play a board game with your kids tonight.
And talk.
Appreciate your family.
And talk. And when we say appreciate, it's so global. What does that mean? That means just have fun again and talk and let each other know how much you care about each other.
We
What
don't
do
do
they
enough
do
of that.
that rocks your world?
Good words.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, thank you so much. for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff as well in the studio. Thank you for watching us this afternoon. We welcome your feedback, and you can find this podcast where most podcasts are found everywhere on the internet. Check us out on YouTube and on our Facebook pages and at realinvestmentadvice.com. I'm Brent Clanton. Thanks for watching. Have a good afternoon.